All right, welcome back. It's been a little bit of a layoff, but back with Scott Shapiro to talk about Louisiana Derby at Fair this Saturday. Hey, Scott.
Hey, Em, how are you?
Good, good. Yeah, it's been a while, so we should be nice and fresh, ready to talk about this race here.
Yeah, I'm back from a brief freshening on the farm. So
Santa Anita and hoops. So, it's kind of a good race because we did sort of the prep for this race, the Risen Star last time. So, kind of talk about a few of these horses. The winner out of that race, Girvin. I guess let's start there because this horse is probably going to be the favorite. I know we don't have morning lines yet. I have the plot pulled up. The number 8 Girvin, who won last time, had a perfect trip. Kind of looks like the way the plot goes, almost similar plot as last time. Looks like he should get a good trip and probably deserves to be the favorite. Wouldn't you agree?
yeah, absolutely. I think that he proved that he was at least as gooder than any of the horses he's facing on Saturday. He gets off the rail, which he was on, although it did work out really well for him last time. He did kind of get a dream run, as you mentioned, up the rail. But he certainly is the horse to beat. Maybe not the one to bet, but the one to beat.
Yeah, I thought let's kind of talk about the trip. I'll pull up the grid here and just sort of look at it. He did have a perfect trip. Was able to save ground and just kind of run past tiring horses. I also thought I kind of went back and watched some of the races that day. I thought sort of those inside paths were where you wanted to be. It wasn't like it was impossible to win from outside or you had a major edge being inside. But I thought those were kind of the better parts of the track. So he's gonna have to work first time from an outside post. He's had the rail twice and then the three posts on debut. So, should get a good trip. Where's the speed in this race? Kind of inside outside.
Yeah, local hero was that runoff in the Risen Star. Then you have that hot foot on the far outside, which is also Sharp's horse. So
Yeah,
not
it's
sure.
Sharp's horse and it's also the same owner. So you have to think maybe this horse is entered as a rabbit. That's sort of my read on this.
Yeah, he certainly has the look of somewhat of a rabbit based on his past performances as well. And he really, unless they figure out tactics with the three or the horse really is a monster, it's going to be pretty tough. Three being local hero to avoid getting caught up unless they can kind of relax relax local hero off of hot foot somehow.
Yeah, I think local hero is just he's classier, and I think he's faster. I think he'll be able to get the lead, but probably will have a horse close to his hip, so shouldn't be able to get a real comfortable setting his own sort of lone pace. We'll talk about that horse next because maybe this was the second choice in the race. Maybe same as close to guest suite, but the note on this horse last time is shorter. That he kind of has a one turn look to him. And now he's getting a little bit extra ground, an extra half furlong. And debut was lone as well. So I think that this horse is, kind of inside speed, take him as far as he can, as fast as he can. And I'm not really seeing it for 9 furlongs, but maybe holds on for an underneath spot, kind of like last time.
Yeah, I really don't like. I mean, to me, he ran off in that race. It wasn't a matter of just being much faster than everybody. I think he has to do a number of things he did not do last race to win. So at a relatively short price, he's not very interesting to me.
Yeah. Okay, so let's kind of go sort of like working our way out in the plot. So I guess the next horse is the number 6 Guest Suite, and this is a horse I've been kind of high on. It's actually the one future that I have.
What did you get?
What's that?
What odds did you get this horse at?
I just put like I think it was the last future pool, so I don't know what it closed at. 60, I think.
Okay.
Um, And I just kind of I like this horse overall. I thought the last race, I would have liked to see a little bit more, but overall, I kind of went back and watched it. Just the way the race shook out, not really in a good spot. Was outside, was much further back than he needs to be early. So I just think kind of better tactics and getting this horse into the race. deserves to be a contender and could probably get another, get a good trip. And he hasn't really taken that kind of big step forward, but kind of grinding forward little by little. I just like I like the athleticism that this horse has shown, and I think if he's closer, gets a good trip, and is definitely good enough in this field to win. What did you have a take on this horse?
Yeah, well, I gave him a big shot last time. I kind of saw it the same way as you did in the Risen Star, a little further back than the horses that, finished ahead of him in terms of Girvin and on track. Obviously, Local Hero was on the lead. So I could kind of forgive him. I'm hoping, like you said, that Alvarado has him closer, like he had him in a couple of the races that he won. The one thing that sticks out to me that I like about the horse is that he wins races, 3 for 6. The discouraging thing to me, it looks like the barn's pretty ice cold. In 2017, I respect Neil Howard as a trainer, but it doesn't look like he's having a very good year, although he does have 8 seconds and 8 thirds, so it's not as if his horses aren't firing. And it does look like he has, I don't know his patterns for workouts and how fairgrounds works go in terms of, pace or anything, but he does have a strong series of work since the race, including 2 bullet drills. So there's some encouraging things for sure.
Yeah, I think when you bring up the point about workouts, and one thing I like to do when I'm looking at the workouts is just kind of look for any change. And so I saw the same thing, that the horse has been fired off a couple bullets, but you can go back to even before the Risen Star, and he put in a couple bullets there. So I think it's important to just know that's sort of who he is in the morning. And if he wasn't training like that, then you'd want to be like, all right, something's up. So at least to me, it looks like he's kind of coming in the right way, and something that's similar for his type of conditioning. That's sort of the way I'll read a workout on paper. Obviously, I'd love workout reports is far superior, but just kind of going off paper, that's one thing that I look for. Let's move to unless you have something else on that horse. Go on.
Well, that is a great point because horses will often get bet based on strong work reports, strong workouts, etc. But if they're morning glories and they're doing it all along, there's no reason to see them, moving forward off of the next series of good works if they're similar. But if a horse really moves forward in the mornings, I think, whether that you're hearing that information from, Donald or other clockers, or just, from what hearsay, whatever it might be, then I think, it's much more important information to use in your handicapping. So I thought that was a very good point.
Yeah, and I'll just kind of do a plug for Optics Works here. I'll put out a sample on Twitter, but that's something that we look for because we do like a lifelong, we have a series of workout reports, and this is for Southern California. And so you can see how the horse is training in the morning, like as far as their grades and keywords, and then compare that to how they work in the race. So when you have a horse that's, let's say the horse works C's, but he runs B's, you don't really put so much weight into those workout reports because he's just not a horse that's sharp in the morning, and then vice versa. So a little bit different on that, but kind of to that same point.
Yeah, and a last thing to go along with that is obviously certain trainers. If in Southern California, I know this stuff, but I don't in a lot of other, circuits. But certain trainers have certain patterns. So, like Bob Baffert, he might get a B work, but, you can tell that it's not as good as the way his, top horses work, or just the patterns that they use. So there's a lot of things that go into it, but just seeing that they work fast before a race is not always a telltale sign.
Agree. All right, so the 2 Pletcher horses here, we'll go from the rail out. So the number 1 Patch, if I have this on standard right now, he's in quadrant 1. I think on surface distance he kind of moves up a little bit. It's the horse that's stretching out around 2 turns for the first time, coming off a good maiden win last time out, and then he actually ran good on debut at 6 furlongs. On surface distance, he kind of moves into quadrant 1 versus quadrant 4. So I kind of look at this horse more of kind of a quadrant 1, quadrant 2 type horse than a deep closer, especially going from the rail. But the one thing about this horse that's interesting, and something that I think that you have to think about, is this horse is missing his left eye. I posted this on Twitter. And so if you're just kind of thinking about it, this horse is breaking in the rail, he can't see out of that side. So I don't know what, it's just kind of an interesting, what do you do? Like, what with a horse like that? Have you thought about that much? Am I kind of philosophizing too much about it?
No, I saw the note. I hadn't known that before until I saw your note on it about the eye. But I'll be honest, I don't think I know enough about how that plays out to make a real strong stand on how it'll impact him from the rail. But it certainly could. I mean, he can't see the rail technically, right? I mean,
Right. I was out riding my bike this morning, like closing my eyes, trying to see like if it makes a difference, like right and left, and then I just realized I'm really fortunate to have both eyes.
Yeah, both eyes, both hands, both legs. It's all very, very fortunate for sure. Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting between that and a young jockey that I don't know if Tyler Gaffalione has he ever ridden it at the fairgrounds before?
I don't think so, and I didn't dig in to really know, just kind of a comment. So yeah, so he's kind of inexperienced. You kind of have a lot of question marks on this horse, but a horse that's ran well in both of his starts. So I guess if the price is right and you're kind of trying to look for a bomb, or you need a stab somewhere. You have a horse that's a runner. But you do have a lot of questions there as far as jockey, trip. Yeah, it's an interesting one for sure.
Can I just jump in real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah, the pedigree on this horse is pretty interesting if you're into that stuff. The Damn Windy Indy also produced a horse named Tiz Windy that was really a successful router. I think was 4 for 15. If I have this written down right, with over $300,000 in earnings. So, based on the pedigree, distance shouldn't be an issue. However, like I said, between the rail and Gaffalione, it's and Pletcher. I mean, do you think this horse is going to be a bomb?
I wouldn't play it unless it was.
Right.
Because of the questions, but yeah. I think
it's a hot buyer too. If you're a DRF reader and you see that 89, I don't know what to make of that.
Yeah, I looked at I pulled up the grid for that race just to kind of see how that competition was, and I think the race overall is pretty solid. Even though there's only been a couple horses that have come back and run out of there, neither of them have won, but they have improved enough. And then just
18th race, you mean the maiden race?
The February 18th race. Yeah, looking at that one. And even just kind of looking at the notes, even though there's a lot of horses that haven't run back, but I can kind of look at the notes and see, if there's like a lot of B's in there or a lot of C's, just kind of the quality of it. So look to be a pretty good field. That sort of remains to be seen as far as evidence, but yeah, it's just like I said, this horse would have to be a price for me to use. I don't think that this is like an impossible horse like a few of these other ones in here, but yeah, it's
sure. What do you make real quick on this horse? Not to go too into it, but just two quick things I also noticed. The horse that he ran down, and I wouldn't say he blasted by, was 50-1 in that race. Meantime, I don't know if maybe that was just a first-time starter that got overlooked. I haven't dug into it. And then the other interesting thing is that Pletcher entered the horse twice before I think it ever ran, and both of those were main track only races, or entries. So he was kind of looking to maybe steal one in a race that got washed off the turf. So just a couple of things I noticed outside of the norm with this horse.
Yeah, I picked that up as well, and I think if it's 7.5, I could take that off the turf. That goes to 8 furlongs on the dirt. So yeah, I mean, I could have been like looking for a softer spot, or yeah, I don't know. They ran pretty quick, like December 4th, December 31, then on the 15th. Yeah, it is a question as well. I try to not overthink those too much, but I think it's it's worth going into. I'm gonna try to pull up the grid on this. And what was the name of that horse you were talking about? Oh, the 9.
Meantime, one word, Mentime.
Okay, yeah, this is This is a Brian Lynch horse who he hasn't run since, but kind of a perfect trip in there. I think the main track that day was kind of speed favoring, so that might have kind of flattered him. You know, maybe he wasn't supposed to, like, wasn't well meant, like good horse, but not well meant, and the track may have carried him. And that horse ran well too, a 90 on the optics figure out of that. So, yeah, I think he's an interesting horse, but a lot of questions to take a short price. Are we ready to move on?
Yes, yes, yes.
All right, let's do this. All right, number 5. We'll go to the other Pletcher horse. We don't have a figure out of the Tampa race. He won by open lengths. Was slowing late according to the notes. As far as the I don't know if do you have an Equibase figure on that race?
An Equibase speed figure?
Or what do you use? What other?
I use Brisnet and Daily Racing.
Oh, okay, Briz.
But I mean the right now I have the Daily Racing form PPs in front of me, and those buyers are like, I mean, I'm not a big buyer guy, but these are 20 to 25 points lower than the main rivals in this race.
Right, that's kind of what I was getting at, because the last figure we have on him, you know, an 82, even going off that, and a little bit of projection coming off that January race is still a little bit below. I will say this. I mean, this horse, just kind of one thing I've noticed, and I needed to kind of pull the analytics on this to do at some point, but horses that I've noticed that get the keyword plotty, they often improve when they're getting blinkers. It's just kind of one of those things I've noticed, and so I see that here. We kind of have that plotty back January 7th, and now the horse is adding blinkers. But again, another horse taking a lot of money in all of his starts. If this is a short price, I'd probably pass. Kind of a bigger price because of the slow speed figures maybe is a little bit interesting. But there's a lot to not like. I'll say that much.
Yeah, I'm not sure they're excited about the 1.3 million they spent at this point.
Probably not. I didn't realize.
Yeah, they don't even know these guys. Tabor, Magnier, yeah, Smith, yeah, they probably don't care. Anyway, I would.
All right. As far as any kind of other contenders in here, I guess let's talk about the 4, because this is a horse that I know that you mentioned earlier, a horse that likes to win. This horse sort of has 3 wins to his credit. You know, the last 3 races, he was disqualified 2 back at the end of January for interference at the top of the stretch. But otherwise, a horse that's just kind of, again, maybe a little bit below, but could be an improving type. Did you have a read on this horse? Like him, just like him?
Well, he ran off the screen last time, but they set things up for him at Oaklawn in that optional claiming race. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I mean, if he can move forward, and they go quick, and, the more I look at it, I know the plot doesn't have the speed rating very high, but, you mentioned Monaco adding blinkers. That could add a little bit to the pace, as that horse is already an EP if you use optics. So this would be one of the 2 horses that maybe I perceived as a long shot or a little bit higher priced horses that I would consider. However, like you said, might just be a cut below and a little too slow.
Yeah, I feel like this would be sort of maybe a wise guy type horse. I don't know. I went back and I watched it, and I thought the last race at Oaklawn was actually better than I thought it was going to be. So Dom gave him a B+. He'd get a little bit of a setup, but I liked the way what this horse showed. He looks kind of racehorse-ish, knows what his job is out there, and I'll compare that to the number 2 horse, Hollywood Handsome, who I think will probably get, even though they're both down in quadrant 4, maybe a little bit better trip, but just seems plotty, like he doesn't want it as much, Senior Investment at least kind of knows to fight to the wire. Did you have a thought on the number 2 horse?
Yeah, that's a toss for me. I'm sure that's not being incredibly insightful, but the only win for that horse came on a muddy track at the fairgrounds. Maybe if all things go right, this horse can pick up the pieces, but not for me on top.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way too. It's kind of plotty. I think the distance will be there, but it doesn't really seem like a win type. So yeah, and the 7 is going to remain as a toss for me. I don't remember if you really like this horse or you're just trying to make a case for him last time, but it's kind of another toss for me.
The only thing I found interesting is that Kent DeSormo just keeps, I don't know who else he's riding on the card, but the fact that he's shipping in to ride this horse is a little interesting to me, and I just have a soft spot for Keith DeSormo. I think he's one of the better trainers out here in Southern California. Doesn't really overspot his horses too much, and has done a lot with some really, I don't want to say average stock, but in terms of moderately priced horses that they've purchased, he seems to do really well with these $50,000 to $100,000 horses, where a lot of other guys are getting that he's competing against have the $400,000 animals. So I respect the barn. There's not a lot to like out of that Risen Star race, but the fact that they run him back, maybe underneath for me.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing. He's Ken DeSormo's riding a filly in the Fairgrounds Oaks, Vexatious. I don't know the number. The 5 horse in that race, Vexatious, for Neil Drysdale, and I think that horse is very interesting in that spot. He's ridden that horse in all 3 of her starts, so that's probably who he went out to ride.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I just prefer this horse over a couple of the horses that'll probably be similar in price. That's probably the extent of it.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. So I think we kind of covered over it as far as plot. I think the plot's probably pretty honest as far as you kind of have to use the standard surface distance. Yeah, and overall pretty straightforward race. Are you looking forward to Horsepower World Series?
I am. Right now, I have way too many PPs to be excited and not a little overwhelmed in terms of the amount of races to handicap, but I'm definitely looking forward to it. It'll be my first attempt at the Horseplayer World Series, and haven't played in too many live events despite all the tournaments I've played in, online and all the racing I've wagered on in my life. So I'm looking forward to it for sure.
It's a super fun tournament. Hopefully I'll get out there for one of the days just to kind of hang out, but too much during this busy season to kind of sneak away for 3 days and miss 3 days of work, horse work, so to speak. All right. What's that?
I said no, understandable. That's another part of it, combining work with the tournament certainly is a busy week.
Yep. But again, I'll just kind of push $50 package for Horseplayer World Series. We kind of ran that as a special. Our normal weekend package is Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We'll still have that available, but also adding the Horseplayer World Series package, which is Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We do that for the horse players. So please take advantage of it. Support us if you can. There's tons of good information. It'll save you hours of replay work on that. All right, so kind of end the video, hopefully, since I'm not playing on Thursday. Try to do a video for Florida Derby, which is also being run on Saturday as well. All right, Scott, thank you, and good luck this weekend.
Thank you, Emily.
All right.